Now, let me raise another issue, which is international solidarity. Here in Brazil, we had two demonstrations in solidarity to Ukraine. And what I know, I took part in the one here in São Paulo. And what I could notice is that there are people that are more connected with the idea of just stopping the war. Others more connected with the idea of defeating the Russian aggression. You see, so these people, they demand weapons from other countries. They welcome weapons to fight back. And there are others that support some kind of NATO intervention in the conflict. How do you see this issue? Should we have a more peace orientation, rejecting weapons from other countries, or should we stand for self-defense and so have a more active action against the Russian aggression, or to invite NATO organizations to come? What do you think?
I mean, I can. Yeah, it's a delicate issue indeed, because on the ground in Ukraine, most people are very clear that yes, they demand military help in all ways, and they demand NATO participation, which is completely impossible for NATO to do so. I mean, they said 100 times that they will not, in any case. And yes, it is a delicate issue for the left. What do you do? Do you invite more military or not, and so on? So I, after reading a position by Gilbert Achcar, an anti-imperialist activist from London, so I tend to agree with his arguments that it is not enough to demand just to stop the war, because then the question arises, at what stage you want to stop the war. Do you mean at the stage of 24th of February, before the current invasion, or would it make probably more sense to demand withdrawal of all Russian troops, including from the areas that were already under their control before that, so in the Donbass? Maybe that would make more sense. So it's a gradual issue, and I would also go as far as approving the calls for military help to Ukraine, because similarly to, for example, Vietnam resistance, nobody minded. So I mean, nobody condemned the Soviet Union for sending weapons and military consulars. Soviet Union and China sending military aid to Vietnam as it was fighting against the Americans. However, I do not think that inviting the NATO to participate in the combat with Russia would be a good idea, because of this famous nuclear status and so on. So even though I am Ukrainian, and I would, even though I have a clear position regarding this particular war in Ukraine, I think it would be a responsible position to still avoid global confrontation, so to escalate it on the level of US versus Russia directly. Yes, so sending military aid, yes, even from NATO, engaging American troops versus Russian troops, maybe this is too risky for the whole world, unfortunately.
Okay. Would you like to say something, Ignacy, about this perspective?
I don't feel in the position to judge this situation. I would leave it to our comrades who are in Ukraine now, and maybe actually I should have said that at the very beginning, that I shared the link to our meeting to comrades in Kyiv. They said that they would try to join if they if they can, but apparently they couldn't. So this is just to stress that in general, like, you know, it should be them talking to you, not me. So I can definitely say from what they keep saying that they need to defend themselves and they need to defend their cities, but regarding like full-scale military intervention, I'm skeptical. I am personally skeptical, but I don't know how to, you know, what to say about it. So.
Okay, I think we are on the same page because, of course, the Ukrainian people, the working class, they have the right to self-defense and they need support. You see, so you get any support, whoever provides it. I think it's right, it's correct. The point of NATO is more problematic because if NATO come with their troops, let's say, what happens is that the experience we have of occupation by NATO, like what happened in Afghanistan, it's something very negative against the people. So I think we should keep our ideas that NATO should finish, as well as the CSTO, which is the Russian military alliance, the new one, not the Warsaw Pact that finished, but the new one. It should also finish because these military alliances are to attack the oppressed people in other countries. But certainly the right to take weapons from whoever, including NATO countries, it's a necessity to carry out the self-defense. So I think we are on the same page. And let me talk a little bit more with you about international solidarity. What do you think we can do to help? You see, we are doing some things, you see. We are glad to have you because we are going to make this video with Portuguese subtitles. We'll publicize this in Brazil. So it helps let's say, the political debate, the effort to win hearts and minds to build solidarity with the Ukrainian working people. But other ideas, you are welcome to bring us other ideas. I think this work that you are doing in Poland, Ignacy, it's great. It's fantastic. Really, we really appreciate that. And we have to see how we can bring the International Labor Network for Solidarity and Struggle, how can we bring them to build an active solidarity from the working class, you see, from a working class perspective. I think this is critical to keep our permanent ideas alive in the midst of this aggression that Russia is carrying out against Ukraine. So what are your thoughts?
So I think first, I think it is exactly important what you say about the class dimension of solidarity, because so far, yes, we are seeing quite an impressive level of solidarity in the global media and so on with Ukraine, but it is structured in such a way as to be perceived as solidarity with the US, solidarity with the liberal agenda. So sometimes, for example, in many mainstream media narratives, it is the whole conflict is shown as the force of the force of evil, like Russia is uncivilized country and it attacks civilized liberal Ukraine and Europe, which is not the picture that I would like to see. So so interpreting this whole story in terms of class, in terms of leftist analysis, so in terms of imperialism, for example, and so on, would lead us to see exactly the class dimension, and I think it would be quite valuable from you as a union, even if you don't have much material resources and so on, but to at least to help us shape the narrative, help us to show that Ukraine, well, first of all, that Ukrainians exist, that they are not just pawns in the hands of the US, that they also have their own agency and their own will, which is often omitted by both sides, or by supporters of both sides, and also that these Ukrainians are, vast majority of them are actually workers. They go to work every day. They do actually quite hard work in extremely appalling conditions, sometimes in the mines and so on. And this resistance is not a resistance of a European civilization, a resistance of liberal values. It is a resistance of the working class that struggles, that is in the process of forming its structures of solidarity. I mean, they are weak, but it's exactly what I have been studying academically, how the unions are politicizing, how they are trying to form workers as a class rather than a mass. And this is the agenda that we should that needs highlighting and that needs support. In terms of more material processes, frankly, that's more difficult for me to say. I'm not a specialist in humanitarian, in military aid, so I'm a sociologist, so I speak about ideas and so on. Yeah.
And well, from my perspective, from Poland, on this more pragmatical level, I definitely believe that the unions and other working class movements in Europe, because in Brazil it's a different story. What can you do from across the ocean? But we all have our sisterly organizations in France, Spain, and other European countries. So what they definitely should do is assist the refugees, or if they haven't reached these countries yet, provide with necessary help for them to reach these countries. And there are also some websites where you can donate money to different grassroots initiatives. This money will be spent on food supplies, medicines, and to some extent on military equipment for the territorial defense units. There is a problem with shipment. I just talked to a comrade in Ukraine that collecting money is one thing, but most of the goods will have to be bought in other countries because there is problem with supplies in Ukraine. So they also need logistics to transport it. So my idea would be that if any of these unions have I don't know, truck drivers or just people who have bigger cars, vans that they could drive and deliver stuff either to the border in Poland or across the border if possible. I personally do not know how this system of carrying stuff across the border works, but I know people who know how to arrange it. So basically, collecting supplies and shipping them after, which is difficult but doable, making sure that they will reach particular groups, because there is loads of a huge amount of humanitarian aid being sent from European countries to Ukraine, which is distributed on the central level. So my suggestion would be to use the resources that the unions, the militant unions have, to provide, all the necessary medicines, food, if possible, military equipment, but also to arrange the shipment, the transportation, which is difficult, but I believe it could be arranged if you talk to the right people. And and one more thing, sorry. The people who flee Ukraine, the refugees, Ukrainians, Belarusians, Africans, Asians, whoever, once this general enthusiasm of helping people ceases, they will be looking for work. They will, and then the employers in the West are quite likely to exploit this situation, to offer them shitty jobs. So this is also a challenge to the unions to prevent this situation, to make sure that these people are treated as they should be. And this is what Vitaly Machienko also stated in his interview. So apparently there are things that can be done. And once it's all over, once hopefully the Russian army retreats from Ukraine, then we will have an open field for further discussions. And as one of my comrades from Kiev said, once we defeat the Russian imperialist army, then we can think of defeating US and other imperialisms.
Great. That's wonderful. I'm glad that we had the opportunity to have this talk with you. And I'm sure Brazilian activists will be very happy to see the perspectives from the working class, you see, both in Ukraine and Poland towards the Russian aggression, you see, because we have the mainstream media only. And even information like this, that like Dennys said, that the majority of the Ukrainians are workers, you see. That's obvious for someone that's from Ukraine, but that's not obvious for someone who is from Brazil. So this is very important, and to show that ordinary people are joining the resistance against the Russian aggression. We did not talk about that. I don't know if you have any other information about the protests inside